You've been taught to avoid making enemies at all costs. Keep your head down, apologize, compromise. Do whatever it takes to keep the peace. But there's a dark truth, whispered through history. Having an enemy is sometimes not a curse at all, but a necessity.
It sounds counterintuitive, even dangerous. You crave safety and approval, in not ruffling any feathers. Yet look closely at the world's most powerful figures. They all had enemies. In fact, it's often the presence of a formidable enemy that forges one's strength and identity. Machiavelli understood this brutal principle centuries ago in the cutthroat courts of Renaissance Italy. He saw how every prince, every power broker, inevitably made enemies, and how paradoxically, those enemies often secured their power. He dared to suggest that a wise leader might even cultivate opposition on purpose. Why? Because nothing unites people like a common enemy. When a threat looms, allies cling to you tighter. When you point to a villain at the gates, those behind your walls suddenly set aside their squabbles and rally at your side. Fear and anger become your tools, forging unity from chaos. Imagine a ruler whose people are divided and restless. He knows words alone won't bind them, so he gives them an enemy, maybe a foreign power or a scapegoat traitor. Suddenly, fear of this enemy overshadows all internal quarrels. People who once questioned him now look to him as their protector. It's a cynical trick, and it works. History is riddled with regimes that manufactured threats to tighten their grip. A struggling king declares a war to unite his kingdom. A politician losing popularity blames an enemy within for the nation's problems. In the frenzy against a common foe, dissenters fall silent, and the leader's power solidifies. Machiavelli told a story of a prince who did that. When Cesare Borgia took control of a lawless province, he appointed a brutal deputy to enforce order. The deputy crushed the chaos and earned the people's hatred. Then, in a masterstroke, Cesare executed his own deputy for these excesses, winning the grateful applause of the populace. He created a monster only to slay it, casting himself as the hero. By orchestrating the terror and then ending it, he made the people love him for delivering them from the evil he allowed. Machiavelli learned from this. Power grows not just from the friends you cultivate, but from the enemies you choose. This strategy isn't limited to princes and tyrants. You see it in everyday life. A team at work bonds tightly when they all despise the same overbearing boss. Schoolyard kids who squabbled among themselves will stand united against an outside bully. Even petty neighbors find camaraderie in collectively hating the family down the street. Nothing melds allies faster than sharing an enemy. Now consider your own life. If you have never made a single enemy, what does that say? Perhaps you've bent over backwards to please everyone, stayed agreeable to avoid all friction. Perhaps you've swallowed your opinions and hidden your strengths just to offend no one. In trying to hurt nobody, you may have made yourself nobody. It's ironic. The very thing you've been avoiding, making enemies, might be the evidence that you're finally asserting yourself. Think of it. No one bothers to attack someone who poses no challenge. If you never contradict or refuse, you remain invisible. But the moment you take a stand, someone will dislike you. The tallest tree catches the harshest wind. Machiavelli would assure you this is natural. He'd rather you be formidable and disliked by some than universally liked and powerless. It is safer to be feared than loved, he wrote, not to praise cruelty, but to note that respect born of strength lasts, whereas affection is fickle. He understood human nature. People are fickle and selfish. If you try to harm no one and please everyone, you'll end up exploited or betrayed by those who see your weakness. It's far better to set the terms yourself, to confront conflict when you must, instead of scrambling to placate everyone. By choosing your battles, you also choose your allies. When you draw a line and say, "Here I stand," you force clarity in your world. Those who stand with you step closer. Those who oppose you reveal themselves. In defining an enemy, you define yourself. As harsh as it feels, the friction of opposition carves out your identity. Modern research confirms this. Psychologists find nothing bonds a group faster than a shared enemy. Give people a common foe and suddenly they cooperate and sacrifice for each other. Political rivals unite when their nation is under attack. Even sports fans feel like family when they have a rival team to hate. Conversely, without a villain, groups often turn on themselves. When there's no outside threat, allies become rivals and unity frays. History shows when a war ends or a danger fades, the once united people split back into factions. Peace is beautiful, but ironically, it can breed new discord in complacent hearts. This strategy walks a razor's edge. Stir up too much hate or pick an enemy too strong, and you risk destruction. Machiavelli warned princes never to become universally despised. You need opposition, yes, but not so much that your enemies unite and crush you. A skilled leader pits foes against each other or keeps their fury directed elsewhere. The art is picking the right enemy, one you can control, one that elevates your cause. Create conflict as a fire break, not an inferno. The goal is controlled tension, not mindless chaos. A tyrant who terrorizes everyone eventually falls to rebellion, while a leader who keeps fear measured stays in power. Even Machiavellian logic admits, too much cruelty is self-defeating. Perhaps this truth leaves you disturbed. It should. It means you may have been a pawn in this game without knowing. Think of times you were swept up in a wave of anger against some other, because everyone around you was too. Were you truly fighting evil? Or were you being cleverly directed by forces that benefited from your rage? Look around today. How often do leaders stoke fear of an enemy to rally people? It could be a foreign power, a political faction, a scapegoated minority. The target changes, the tactic remains. They point and cry danger, and we rush to huddle under their protection. We hand over our trust, all to fight the foe we're told to hate. Orwell even warned us in 1984. The regime keeps power through perpetual war and daily orchestrated hate, always directing fury at a fabricated enemy. Fiction, yes, but it feels familiar when a society is whipped into hysteria against some threat and stops questioning those in charge. So where does this leave you? With clearer sight, if you choose to use it. Next time someone tells you who to hate, pause and question why. When you feel a surge of righteous anger against a supposed enemy, ask, who profits from this rage? Are you thinking for yourself or dancing on someone else's strings? This doesn't mean you should become a monster. Machiavelli's lesson isn't to be cruel for fun, but to challenge your fear of conflict. Stop assuming that being hated means you failed. Sometimes it means you did something meaningful. Don't seek fights for no reason, but don't flee from them when something real is at stake. Think of the cost of always avoiding conflict. It means living chained by the need for approval, saying yes when you should say no, staying silent when you should speak. You watch injustice and force a polite smile because you don't dare make waves. That kind of peace is surrender. A life without ever making an enemy is a life without integrity. Remember, anyone who ever truly changed something important made enemies along the way. Every great thinker or leader was opposed before they were celebrated. If you tiptoe so as to offend no one, you'll never leave a footprint. If you dare to stride, expect someone will try to trip you. This isn't just about famous figures. It's about you. Maybe at work you need to call out a lie or refuse an unethical order, knowing it will anger your boss. Maybe with friends or family, you must draw a line and say, "Enough," even if it upsets them. In those moments you choose comfort or courage. Living honestly often means risking anger. It might feel lonely to accept that you need enemies. We're social creatures. We crave approval and harmony. Stepping out and saying, "I'll go my own way, even if some despise me for it," is daunting. You might lose the comfort of fitting in. You will attract criticism, and it will test your confidence. But what you gain is worth the cost. Self-respect and clarity. When you stop fearing enemies, you start living truthfully. The people who remain by your side truly value you, not just a pleasing mask. Inside, you feel your spine straighten. You know who you are, because you've shown what you will and won't tolerate. Think about why Machiavelli's words endure. He wasn't celebrating cruelty. He was revealing an uncomfortable survival law. In his Italy, betrayal was everywhere. Princes who relied on goodwill alone met ruin. That insight transcends time. Today's battlefields are boardrooms and social networks instead of dueling fields. But human nature hasn't changed. The cunning still maneuver, and the meek still get trampled if they remain naive. Machiavelli's lesson is a call to realism. Let go of the naive hope that you can sail through life without conflict. If you care about anything deeply, sooner or later you'll have to defend it, and that will create opposition. You don't have to like this fact, but you do have to accept it. In a world of wolves, meekness is an invitation to be eaten. You might wish the world were gentler, that you could be kind and meet only kindness. But the world has teeth, and denying that won't make them go away. You find a deeper peace once you stop running from conflict. Accept that enemies will come, and you stop living in fear of them. Think of conflict as fire. Uncontrolled, it will consume everything. But controlled, it forges. Trials and adversaries are the flames that refine you. A blade untested by heat is brittle. A person untested by opposition remains naive. The goal isn't to live in flames, only to be willing to pass through them when necessary. An enemy can even clarify your purpose. Fighting for what you believe in shows how much it means to you. Facing opposition can summon courage and creativity you didn't know you had. Conflict not only teaches you about them, it teaches you about yourself, chiseling away uncertainty and revealing what truly matters to you. One warning: don't let having enemies turn you into a monster. There's a difference between accepting conflict and seeking vengeance. Machiavelli taught strategy, not cruelty for its own sake. Protect your integrity and interests, but don't revel in hate. Fight with purpose and principle, and never become the monster you oppose. What does embracing this truth look like? You stop twisting yourself to please everyone. You step into the world knowing some will dislike you, and you accept it without flinching. If standing for your values makes you the villain in someone's story, so be it. Better to be misunderstood than to live a lie for the sake of being liked. And when someone unjustly casts you as the enemy, you won't crumble. You'll recognize the ploy for what it is, a move in a power game, and respond with clarity instead of panic. Knowing how enmity works, immunizes you against manipulation. You stop asking, "How can I avoid conflict?" and start asking, "Which conflicts are worth fighting?" Ultimately, having an enemy isn't the worst thing. Far worse is betraying your convictions to avoid conflict. Machiavelli's cold wisdom strips away the comforting lie that you can do something meaningful without upsetting anyone. You can't. Every meaningful act will divide opinion. Every principled stand will create opposition. Knowing this, you can meet those moments with clear eyes instead of surprise. There is a strange peace in this understanding. Instead of dreading conflict, you accept it as part of life. You stop exhausting yourself trying to please those who will never agree with you. And when trouble finds you, you face it head-on instead of withering. You're no longer paralyzed just because someone stands against you. If one day you must choose between being true to yourself and being liked, promise yourself this: you won't betray your soul. You will choose the harder road. You'll let someone hate you rather than hate yourself for cowardice. You'll make that enemy not because you desire conflict, but because some things are worth fighting for. Even if you try to be harmless, someone can still cast you as a villain. You can't control that. You can only control why you might be hated. Let it be for your strength or honesty, never for your fear or deceit. If enemies will come regardless, let them come because you stood for something that mattered. It's a strange freedom realizing this. You stop being frightened of the label enemy. You stop thinking that if someone hates you, it means you failed as a person. Instead, you evaluate why, and you make peace with it. Sometimes standing for what's right will cost you friendships or popularity, but it will earn you something deeper, something unshakable within. When you accept that enemies are inevitable, a strange thing happens. You might even hate them less. Conflict becomes something you face calmly when needed, not something that consumes you. You can regard adversaries without blind rage, seeing them as opponents, perhaps misguided, but not demons. This perspective keeps you balanced, so you fight only the battles that truly matter. Yes, this understanding costs you some innocence. You can't pretend anymore that everyone will like you if you're just nice enough. But losing that illusion gives you something better. Strength. You become harder to bully or fool. You see when fear is being used to hurt you, and you step outside the flock. Picture the next time you find yourself under fire for taking a stand. Perhaps colleagues turn on you for speaking an uncomfortable truth. In that moment, you'll feel hurt and isolated. But then you remember this lesson. You stand tall and realize their hostility means you made an impact. They see you as an enemy because you refuse to be a victim. By now you understand why Machiavelli's advice was so stark. He wasn't encouraging cruelty. He was stripping away illusion. If you want to achieve anything of substance, you will make waves, and people will push back. Better to ride the wave you create than drown under one you ignored. Let them label you difficult, arrogant, ruthless. Whatever makes them comfortable as you defy their expectations. Such words are flung at anyone who refuses to be controlled. Wear their scorn lightly. Far better to be cursed by some for standing strong than praised by all for surrendering. In your mind, make a vow. You will not live as a pawn. You will not silence your voice just to keep the peace. You will meet life on your own terms. And when conflict finds you, you won't crumble. Even if you stand alone against a host of critics, you will stand for something. And that is power in itself. This is what it means to be at peace in a world of conflict. Not that you enjoy strife, but that you do not tremble before it. You carry peace within, knowing who you are, and what you're willing to fight for. Enemies will come and go, but your integrity remains. The winds of discord may howl, but you've built your house on rock. Picture yourself at the end of a long struggle. You may have lost some battles and won others. You carry the scars, but you are still standing. The dust settles, and your opponents have exhausted their fury. What remains is you, the one who didn't back down. The quiet in your soul now isn't the silence of avoidance, but the calm after the storm. That calm is your victory. You paid the price for having enemies and kept your soul intact. You never lived crawling to appease others. When you no longer fear others' hatred, you are free to be yourself, walking your path undeterred by snarls in the shadows. In a world that pressures everyone to kneel, you have dared to stand tall.